Hey everyone, welcome back to Disrupting Everything. It's been a few months since I last posted a episode. When I started the podcast, I had just finished another project and didn't take any time to regroup and get everything that I need ready so that I can come into this 100%. And having taken some time off, I feel much better about the content that I'm going to be creating moving forward, the type of content, the people that I'm going to be speaking with, and just feel more comfortable and confident with myself as an interviewer. And I feel more confident that I can bring valuable content to you guys. So let's jump into today's episode. In this episode, I'm going to be talking with Sulem Urbina. She's a professional flyweight boxer, and this episode was actually recorded a few months ago before she had her fight with Marlene Esparza. The fight may be mentioned once or twice throughout the episode, but it's already passed. If you want to check it out, you can watch it, I believe, on Dazn or Dazn, or I don't know how to say it, but I'll have a link in the show notes if you want to check it out. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna get this wrong again. Can you say your name one more time? I'm sorry.
Sulem Urbina.
Sulem Urbina.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining me today, Sulem Urbina. Really excited to talk with you. I know that you are back and forth between here and Mexico. Did you grow up here in the U.S. or in Mexico?
Well, I was born in Mexico at the age of 5 years old. My parents, wanted a better future for us, and we came to the United States undocumented. I still remember when I crossed the border. I was a little girl, but
oh wow,
I remember hiding from immigration, and my mom, whispering in my ear, "Shh, be quiet, be quiet." And I lived here practically my whole life in Arizona, undocumented. And as I got older, I left to Mexico. I wanted to know and to be in Mexico and to represent Mexico in boxing. So I'm Mexican and raised here in the United States.
What was that like, being undocumented here in the U.S.? I guess it's pretty common, but what was that like? Was there any fear from you and your family?
There's lots of fear when you grow up undocumented. You can't even drive a car without being afraid. I grew up here in Arizona, a state that's very, very racist. We had a sheriff named Joe Arpaio that was racial profiling. I'm all for, go get the bad guys, the guys that are, selling drugs, doing bad things, but we're not all bad guys. He was going after the people that were working honorably, trying to provide for their family. My father was deported, and my two brothers are deported. It's been a struggle. I didn't get my residency till I was older, till I was like 23 years old, and I look back and I sit there and I think about, the scared feeling that you get when you would see an immigration truck passing by, things like that. It's things that unless you're undocumented, you have no idea, because you're constantly wondering if your mom's going to come home, your dad's going to come home, if they've been pulled over and turned into immigration, things like that.
Wow, that's definitely scary. So it's always this constant tension or this constant worry and fear that something might happen. And it sounds like something did actually happen. What was the case? And it's okay if you don't want to talk about it, but with your brother and your dad, were they? What was the reason for them being deported? Was it just?
It was what, 10 years ago when my dad got deported, I believe. He got pulled over driving. He didn't have a driver's license, anything. Once you get processed here in Arizona, after you get processed, you get turned into immigration. So it's things like that happen. And my older brother, he was never he never went down the right path. The last time he got into a fight at a QT with somebody that said some racial slurs to him, called him a wetback, and my brother wasn't having it, and he got into an altercation with somebody else, and from there, he was arrested and then deported. It's things like that. They grew up here. My brothers grew up here. They don't really know how to live in Mexico. My
Yeah.
mother is here, and when they got deported, it's been tough for them. One of them actually tried coming back last year, and I know it's wrong, but I mean, he tried coming back and he wanted to be with his mother, and immigration came and picked him up and took him, and he's awaiting deportation again.
Oh wow. So did he make it over here, and did they
He
catch him when he made it over here?
Yeah, he made it over here, and then he got caught when he was here. So it's like
That sucks.
it's. I mean, I know it was wrong, but what do you expect with somebody that grew up here? This is what they know, and this is home for them.
Yeah. There's always going to be this desire to come back home. Yeah, that really sucks, and it sounds really unfair too. Also, the fact that it kind of sounds like it stemmed from some racist
Yeah.
incident that someone was calling him out. So that's really sad. I'm not too familiar with Phoenix. I actually have family that lives in Phoenix, but I don't go visit them too much, so I'm not sure like what the area is like and the demographics in the area are.
I think a lot of things changed with once the Trump administration took over. Certain people certain people felt like it was okay to be racist and it was okay to say certain things that you shouldn't be saying. And that happened, and my brother, he's kind of hot-headed. He should have just walked away, but it happened, and now he's where he's at.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wonder, like, I'm from Southern California, so here it seems like there's just a big mixture. I guess that's probably what the difference is there's like a huge mixture of every ethnicity. So it's, I guess, a lot different than.
Well, there's like every city, they have their areas with ethnicity. But the thing is, for so long we had that sheriff that I was talking about, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who even through the Obama administration, he didn't care what Obama said. He did what he wanted to do. It was his thing to racially profile, and it's something that you kind of. It's sad to say, but you kind of get used to. You get used to being racially profiled like that. I for the longest, I would see a cop, I'd be driving, and I'd be like, oh, I'm turning right here, even though that's not the street I need to go to, and I'm not doing anything wrong. I just don't have the documents to be able to be driving. So it's like it was scary, just thinking back to those times.
Yeah, it's not like you're just exaggerating. It's a valid fear because it's happened to your family already. Just driving one day and all of a sudden you're stopped, and it really just changes not only your life but your whole family's life forever.
Yeah, and it just becomes harder, They take away your car because you don't have a license. Now you don't have a car to get to work. It makes life, so much more difficult. It's all those little struggles, that we're people that are trying to work honorably, and we're just looked at a little different.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to touch on your early boxing career. How did you get into boxing?
Well, I got into boxing because my older brothers started attending a local boxing club. Now I'm the only girl in my family. I have two older brothers, two younger brothers, and I always wanted to prove how tough I was to them. I always thought I was a little badass, you can say. And I played all the sports in school. I did everything. And once they started boxing, little sister was metiche. She wanted to tag along, She wanted to tag along with her brothers. And obviously they didn't want to take me. My father kind of forced them to take me to the local boxing club with them. And, from there, I fell in love not only with the sport, but with, the family around it, all the little friendships that I made, all my little friends, the memories, all that stuff. It's it's that boxing community that really, welcomes you right away. And I was 11 years old and I found love in boxing.
What was it that really got you excited about it? Was there, you mentioned that you had something that you wanted to prove and you just wanted to prove that you were tough. Is that what it was?
I think it was a little bit of that I wanted to prove that girls could do it too, that I was tough. But also, I come from a Mexican family. Boxing is huge in the Hispanic culture. We watched Julio Cesar Chavez, all the fights every weekend. On, back in the day, you had pay-per-view and the little boxes of HBO. Somebody
Yeah.
somebody in the neighborhood would pay for the pay-per-view. Everybody would come in and to the pot.
Yeah, the whole
The
block.
the whole block would get together, potlucks, party. Everybody watching the fights. I think I just knew that it was something huge in my heritage, and something that everybody loved, and I enjoyed watching it too. Um, I was always an athlete, like I said. I wasn't that little girl that played with dolls. I didn't like dolls. I hated dolls. I remember one Christmas I got dolls and I never even opened them because I didn't like them. But I got a skateboard and a bike and I was all over the place. I was always a kid. I was always a little girl that was kind of boyish. So just boxing, that was it for me. That was the sport for me.
And what was your amateur record like?
I had almost 100 fights. I can
Oh,
say
wow.
about 16, 17 losses, and most of those losses came in international competition, which is, I represented Mexico and against the elite amateurs of other countries. So it was at that high stage. I was able to travel the world because of boxing, which is another reason why I love boxing so much. Because if it wasn't for boxing, I would have never even been on an airplane, I believe.
Yeah, it definitely opens up opportunities. And it's like you mentioned, the Mexican fans, I'm sure, are very welcoming to anyone that puts up a good performance. They automatically will fall in love with you.
Definitely. I think, it's for that same reason that everybody wants to be Mexican in boxing, Even Mayweather would wear that Mexican boxing
Yeah.
outfit with the sombrero, because, everybody knows that the Mexican fan base is where it's at.
Yeah, and there's a certain style that most Mexican fighters have, which is like a very brawling, come forward and just, no backing up style.
Mhm.
Is that something that you feel like as a Mexican fighter that you have a responsibility to do as well?
I think I look at it a little different. Mexican style to me is that courage, that fire that Mexican fighters have, that willingness to not give up. It's not necessarily, a specific style, like you say, like a brawler or whatever. Because there's a lot of great boxers. I mean, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. is known as a brawler, but dude, that he made people miss with that bending that he did. He knew how to counter. He had good footwork. He had a stance. Salvador Sanchez, great boxer. There's a little bit of everything. For me, Mexican style is more of a that courage and that hunger that you have in the ring, that willingness to not give up and to win. I think that I do possess that. I think I have a lot of tools in my pouch, and whatever tools are available to me and that are gonna help me win that fight, I will use. But I do love a good brawl also.
Yeah, it makes sense. That definitely makes sense. That's a good way of looking at it. Not specific to the style, but more about their heart and they're willing to just leave everything in the ring.
Exactly.
Did you try out for the Mexican Olympic team?
I was on the Mexican national team. I represented Mexico from 2009 at the Continental Championships all the way to, I believe, 2016 at the Olympic qualifiers in Argentina. Unfortunately, I fell short from qualifying to the Olympics, but I do have my fair share of international experience. I qualified to the Pan Ams. I medaled at Central American Games. Many competitions, continentals, I fought many Olympians in the amateurs, beat some, lost to some. So the experience is there, you know. I just don't have that Olympic, background. I didn't make it to the Olympics. I felt, one fight short of it, but I know that I'm well seasoned, and I'm transitioning well into the pros. Amateurs and the pros are two different sports that should be respected differently. You can't just walk into the pros and think that because of everything you did in the amateurs, you're made. You have to make changes, adjust, and I've been adjusting very well. And I think I'm better as a pro than I was in the amateur international style.
Yeah, I hear a lot of fighters that are really good as or see a lot of fighters too that do really good as pro that just are not good as amateurs. It's all based off of points and a completely different scoring system. Pro fighters make for a lot more exciting fights too. Do you ever get nervous when you're traveling to go fight somewhere else when you were traveling before as an amateur?
As an amateur, I think the first of every time that you're doing something is very special. I think you always get nervous, but you get a little more nervous and you don't know how to control them the first time around. As you get experience, you learn how to control the nerves. I remember my first international fight, I was in Brazil. I mean, here's a girl from Hermosillo, Sonora, that never been on a plane, going off to Brazil. I step in there and my legs are all shaky and I'm nervous. It's just, that excitement from that first time competing international. But you learn and you learn how to manage those nerves. I think for me, it's always really good to get nervous, because if you don't get nervous, if I don't get nervous, and personally, I don't perform. I kind of tend to fall asleep, or I'm a little too passive. Obviously, I've learned little by little to control my nerves more and use them to my advantage and not let them affect me.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's something that you kind of deal with and have learned to deal with instead of trying to act like I don't want to be nervous at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like learn to manage the situation and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been in fights where I don't get too excited about it. And I win. I pull off the win because I know how to win, but I don't look as great as I should have because I wasn't as excited, as nervous. I think that nerves help you in some way perform better, as long as you know how to control them and you know how to still think. To me, they gave me a little more explosive, more out there and more willing to fight,
Yeah, definitely. And I know that it can be also kind of draining to have all this anxiety. Have you ever been in that situation where you've been so nervous before a fight that when you actually get in there, it has the opposite effect and you're you just kind of run out of energy pretty early?
It hasn't happened, and I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. I think the way I see it is I'm already here. You have 2 arms, 2 legs, just like me, 2 eyes, I'm already here. Let's get it on. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen to me, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to say what it's actually from, being on the outside as a fan and watching it on TV.
I personally feel that I tend to look terrible sometimes during camp, and then once the lights go on, I look better. So
oh, nice.
So that's good. That's to my advantage. That's really good. But it's something that it is very difficult. A lot of people on social media can comment and all this stuff, but not just anybody can step in front of those lights. It's hard. It's hard work. I mean, some people won't even know how to stand in front of press to give a interview. So, but they can tweet their heart out. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think when you step into that boxing ring, it's the biggest stage ever. All eyes on you, and you should enjoy it because that's what you've worked for. That's where you get to showcase what you've been working for.
How did you get in contact with Golden Boy, or how did that relationship form?
Well, I finished my contract with my previous promoter. Things didn't work out, and I wanted to make the jump to, come fight in the United States. Um, I'm really good friends with Joel Diaz. He's somebody that I look up to and admire very much, and you could say he's my advisor. He helps my team out, and he got us in touch with Robert. One day, Robert Diaz just messaged me on Instagram, and from there, the relationship started. They invited me to be on a card back in November. I remember I was super sick, but it was such an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. It was an opportunity that, when big opportunities come, you take them and you run with them and you make sure you perform, and I did.
That was your first U.S. fight, right?
That was actually my first fight with Golden Boy, and it was in Mexico. It was in San Miguel de Allende in November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then they liked it, and I got invited back again in February. And I'm easy to work with. I stay in the gym. I stay ready. So when they called me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's fight. And I got put on the schedule, and I fought, and I did very well. I looked good, and that's where they told me, you know what, you're part of the Golden Boy.
Oh, nice. And then your next fight after that was your first fight with Golden Boy?
The next one with Marlene Esparza is coming up on October 30th, and we're stablemates, and it's going to be a great fight.
That's tough. So does that mean that you guys train together?
No, it means we're both with Golden Boy.
Okay.
We're both with Golden Boy, and she's coming off of a loss last November against Anissa Estrada. Coming off of fighting on February on a Golden Boy card, and time for us to meet up and give everybody a great show.
And you said that is what's the date for that?
October 30th.
October 30th. Okay, just around the corner.
Yeah.
Where's that? Where's the location for that?
So it will be held at the Fantasy Springs Resort and Casino at in Palm Springs, Indio, California. Basically, it's all the same area. But there won't be any fans in attendance, unfortunately, because of COVID. Things, the whole world is shook right now, but Golden Boy is doing a great job putting a great fight together. The whole card is stacked, and I'm just excited to be back in the ring. I think, like I said, big opportunities come and you have to take them. And I feel blessed to be able to work in this pandemic,
Yeah, that's going to be televised, I'm guessing?
Yes, it will be televised on Dazn.
Nice. Okay, definitely check that out. Have you had any fights canceled because of COVID over the past few months?
Well, once I fought in February, we were talking about maybe fighting again in May, and Golden Boy had a whole schedule already planned out for their cards, and they were already thinking about when to put me on a card. Unfortunately, everything happened with COVID, and the whole summer kind of fell through. But I was promised a fight before the end of the year, and this one's it.
That's definitely exciting. Who are some fighters that you've looked up to throughout your career?
Well, when I was little, I used to watch Christy Martin. And I was like, wow, she's a girl, she's fighting on HBO, and, so cool. And I don't remember if it was HBO or Showtime, I'm sorry. But I just remember seeing her on the big screen, Then, obviously, Julio Chavez Sr. actually got to see him fighting here in Arizona, towards the end of his career. Like I said, my family was a huge boxing family that watched the fights. I got to watch Roy Jones Jr., Castillo, everything, solo boxeo. There's been so many. For me, one of my favorite fighters ever is Finito Lopez. Finito Lopez, he's not only because of everything he was capable inside the ring, but because of the person he is outside of the ring. And the advice he gives upcoming boxers like myself.
What are some of the things that you've learned from the fighters? Is it like style wise, or more about like mental toughness? One of the things that I've seen, um, watching boxing over the past few years, you see so many fighters that lose the fight mentally before they get in the ring, and that's a really it's really interesting, right? To see these fighters that are so good, but they can be, I wouldn't say intimidated, but yeah, boxing is definitely a mental game, and it seems like that can affect a lot of people.
Definitely. I think you have to be just as prepared physically as mentally, even more so mentally, because I mean, when fatigue starts kicking in, or whatever it is, your mind can tell your body to keep going. And just like that, like you mentioned earlier, some fighters go up into the ring already tired. That's because, mentally they let themselves lose already by the time they walk into the ring. The mental game is extremely important. I think for myself, I like and prefer learning from other people's mistakes than my own. So
Yeah.
I do listen to a lot of talk shows. I see what happens around me. I'm one of those junkies that remembers everything that you know I've been through in boxing. I remember all my fights. I remember all that stuff. I go over it. I think uh, seeing other boxers, go up to become world champions and then come back down, also helps me look at things in a different perspective. It's You have to, be willing to learn and see things and evaluate things.
Yeah. What's an area or areas that you think you need to improve at as a fighter?
As a fighter in the ring, I definitely need to work a lot more on my defense. I think it's been coming along. I spent a few years away from my coach. I was training out in Mexico City, training with different coaches, and I lost a little bit of that in that transition. They didn't work with me as much as my personal coach does, but I'm getting back to that. I definitely need to, get better at that. And I also, following up. Sometimes I hurt my rival, and I don't follow up. I don't go for the kill. I definitely need to get better doing that, and finishing a fight, after I hurt them.
Is it have you been able to look back and think of what the reason for that is? Is it not noticing that they're hurt, or
It's more of, I think it's the experience from my last fight. I hurt my opponent about 4 or 5 times, and she was about to go down, and I didn't measure my distance. I got in too close, and she would hug me,
hmm.
things like that. You learn as you go on. I didn't set up. Instead, I just threw a barrage of punches instead of setting up a good punch to get her out of there. It's little things that you sit there and you look at tape, and you analyze, and you say to yourself, well, this is what I'm gonna do next time.
Yeah, it's definitely the tiny little
Yeah,
details. It's a skill, learning how to close out a fight, and like you said, keep the right distance. Make sure you're not smothering your punches, and make sure that you're not punching yourself out, and all the different things.
exactly.
Um, do you? So boxing is definitely a grind. It's like out of all the sports that I've seen, it seems to be like that's a definition of a grind. Like every day you have to get up and just work your ass off nonstop. It's so difficult. What is it that keeps you going and keeps you motivated to keep going every day? Because uh, yeah, it's just so difficult.
For me personally, it's my family. I've been doing this for so long, and I want to show them that it was worth it. I want them to be proud of me. I want them uh, to see me at the top, because I've worked for so long that it has to give me something. I have to get my reward, which is that belt, that world championship. Um, I can't say that I'm in this for the fame or for the money, because honestly, I'm not. I'm in this because I want to be a world champion, leave this world and say, hey, I set out to do this task. I did it, and I'm out. I want to just be able to say that after all those years, you know, I made my goal possible.
Yeah, you're at the point of no return. You've already invested so much time that makes
It
sense.
has
You
to be worth
definitely.
it. It has to be worth it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I would imagine there's a lot of the the toll that it takes on you physically obviously is huge, but also mentally, and the toll that it takes on your family, I would imagine, is difficult too. Do you have kids?
I do not have kids, which makes it things a little easier, you know. It takes a huge toll on you mentally. Um, you don't you can say you don't have a normal life like everybody else, you know. You have to be taking
Yeah,
care of yourself 24/7. Boxing is not a seasonal sport. We go year long. So if you get a call, you have to be ready, you know. I think that's what separates, you know, great fighters from those that could have been great is the way they take care of themselves and discipline themselves in between camps and when they don't have fight days.
do you have like an actual camp now when you're training for a fight, like a maybe uh, 6 week or 8 week camp, or are you just constantly in the gym all the time?
Well, I'm constantly in the gym. I'm in the gym all the time. Even through this pandemic, when gyms were closed, I was training at the park. Obviously, you slow down a little bit on training. You're not really getting fight ready, and you get to slow down on things and work
Mm-hmm.
on things that you need to perfect instead of just hurry up and be ready to fight. You know, um, like I said, I stay in the gym, so I don't balloon up in weight too much. I've been there, I've done that. I like to take care of myself. I'm not getting any younger, so um, I take care of my body very well, so that you know my longevity in this career is can be better. You know, the more you take care of yourself, the longer you last.
Yeah. Do you ever get worried about long term health? I'm sure you do, but what are your thoughts on that? On your long term health and the possibility of having something happen to you long term,
Well,
like some.
I think in recent years there's been a lot of deaths and tragedies happening in boxing. You know, um,
Yeah.
it's definitely a huge risk. You know, every time we step into the ring, you never know how you're gonna come back. Um, it's I can't say that I sit here and I'm scared for it because I'm not. You know, this is what I choose to do. I'm a person that lives a free life, and whatever happens, I'm okay with it. I'm gonna make the very best of this moment that I have right now. Um, when Pritchard Colon, one of fellow boxers, you know, ended up in a coma and is now physically challenged. You know, we know that things that can happen, and I've had that conversation with my husband, and I told him that if something like that was to happen to me one day, and you know, I'm not gonna be okay, that I would rather, you know, be disconnected because it's not a life that I would like to live. The same thing with if something were to happen to me in a crash or something like that. You know, it's things that we've talked about already. I think it's things that you should always talk about because tomorrow isn't guaranteed, you know. And I learned that at a very young age, so I make the very best of today, and that's pretty much how I live my life.
That makes sense. It's tough to see some fighters that. I mean, it's just tough to see. I've like personally, I've watched fights on TV where the fighter has ended up with permanent damage and has pretty much ended their career. You know, their life as a normal functioning
Uh-huh.
human. Um, so it's really scary for sure. I can only imagine how scared you must be. All not scared, but uh, how brave you are to risk it every time you get in the
I
ring.
think as boxers, you know, we know that things like that can happen. It's always there in the back of our minds. I personally, you know, I feel for my parents. I hope they never get to see me like that. But That's why I train the way I do. I'm very careful with how I train, and I'm very disciplined, and I try not to cut too much weight, take care of my body, and you know, sometimes things just happen. It's life, but I try to make the best of it. Not too long ago, I told everybody, something that we do in my family, we say bye all the time because you never know if you're gonna see them again the next day. It's something my family and I have that not a lot of people understand. I always say goodbye to my parents every single day. I always kiss them on the cheek and I tell them I love them because you never know what's gonna happen.
You have to live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
It's crazy not knowing what's going to happen. Yeah, so I definitely hope none of that ever happens to you, obviously, and you never have to deal with anything like that. Well, I'll definitely be praying for you when you go into fights.
Thank you.
What situations or fights have you gone through that have made you more confident as a fighter?
I think more than fights, it's the struggle of staying in the sport as a woman. As being a woman in the sport is, if it's hard being a male, it's 10 times harder being a woman because a lot of times they won't even give you an opportunity. Just the fact that I'm still here after so many years, I've persevered. I'm on the stage. I've been fortunate and lucky enough to be on national TV, on worldwide streaming services. Showing my talent and being successful. I'm already winning. I'm already winning because that little girl from Southside Phoenix that everybody looked at, who thought she was gonna be fighting on TV and being seen worldly. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as a woman, I'm already winning in this sport, but there's so much more that I need to do and I must continue to do for my family, for myself also, and for generations to come, because like other women from before me have opened doors for us today, we have to continue opening doors for women later on in the sport.
You mentioned something that is really interesting. You're kind of at a point in your career and your life where you can really enjoy the process and not focus so much on goals. Like obviously, I'm sure as a fighter, there's the goal of wanting a world championship, but you're at a point where you have a big promoter, you're fighting on TV, you are going to be getting big fights and hopefully fighting for a world title soon. So you can actually enjoy what you're doing and not always be looking forward to other things. You can live in the moment and just enjoy life.
I'm living my dream. Like I said, it's never been about fame for me. It's been about doing what I love. It's been about being on that stage and the fact that I'm able to be on these amazing cards with so much talent. With Golden Boy, it's a dream come true. Who would have thought that I would have even made it on there? I was undocumented. I couldn't even fight at a national tournament here in the U.S. And now I'm here fighting on a Golden Boy card, a world title eliminator. That's huge.
Yeah, that's crazy. And are there any fighters that you're looking at and that you want to fight over the next few years? Anyone specific?
Well, for this fight, after I win this fight on October 30th, I have a title eliminator against. I have a world shot at Yves Zamora, who is the WBC world champion. This fight on October 30th is the world title eliminator. Winning this one, it catapults me into a world championship match, and that's what I'm focused on. Obviously, I have to get through Esparza first, and I'm not looking past her. I think she's a tougher fight, and I know that I can and will win.
Okay, so the winner of this fight becomes the mandatory?
Yes, sir.
Nice. That's really exciting. No pressure at all.
It's all, you gotta have fun in the process.
Yeah. If you're not having fun, then what's the point?
Exactly.
Is there what are some of the best fights that you've seen, that you've enjoyed watching the most?
Recently, that Cepeda versus Baranchik. I mean, there was 8
Oh,
knockdowns.
wow.
That fight is
That was insane.
That fight is historic. I remember sitting there
Yeah.
watching it. I know Chon personally, and I was sitting there, yelling at the screen, "Come on, Chon!" And that fight was, it's one that's gonna be put down in history. I think it's one of the best. I've seen a lot of the women's fights also. Terry Harper and Natasha Donas. Oh my God, that fight was that fight was great. It's one of the best. Katie Taylor versus Pursoon, the second one. It was also great. Michaela Mayer's been doing great on Top Rank also. I like to watch all the women's fights because I think that that's the only way that we're gonna keep growing in the sport, supporting each other and talking about each other. Men in the sport, everybody talks about them, so why not support each other?
Yeah. What do you think would be what do you think is a way to get more exposure to women's boxing and make it more of a mainstream sport?
I think that we have to keep showcasing good level, skilled fights between two women on the big platforms, which are ESPN, Dazn, hopefully PBC on Fox, gets on board and starts putting some women on the card. Showtime, with Clarissa Shields. I think those big channels and streaming services are a huge part of why we are where we're at right now and where we can be. The difference of them, showcasing us and not showcasing us is gonna, either catapult us or bring us down. One of the two. They have to show us more, and we will continue to build that fan base. As they stop, then we're gonna go back to exactly where we were. No TV, nobody's really gonna know unless you're a real boxing junkie.
Yeah, it comes down a lot of the responsibility falls on the networks if they are promoting it and have a big marketing campaign behind these fights and it gets lots of exposure. Then it very easily becomes a household name, right?
Exactly. I think that the more we're on these big platforms, the more eyes on us, and the better quality fights we put on these platforms, the better it will be for us.
Awesome. Well, I've had a really good time talking with you. Before we wrap up, I want to go to a segment I have called Rapid Q&A, where I just ask a few more personal questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
I would say stay focused. Don't eat too much. Keep your weight down. I had a little bit of weight struggle around my teen years, and just stay perseverance.
Awesome. And what's your favorite movie?
Remember the Titans.
I would love that movie, but I feel like I've seen it so many times in school. My middle school. That's the only movie they would play.
Like, I just watched it again last night. It's my motivational movie. I think it reminds me of my coach. It's a dictatorship, not a democracy.
Yeah, very motivational for sure. And good movie for athletes. What's your favorite takeout restaurant, and what do you get from there?
Takeout restaurant. I would say Tabu. It's Mexican sushi. I love it. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
It's very good. I get it in Hermosillo, Sonora, and it's one of my favorite spots.
I've never heard of Mexican sushi.
Oh, it's good.
That's a new term.
Put some carne asada on it.
Oh, that sounds good. And do you have a favorite after fight meal or after you weigh in?
After I weigh in, I always have steak, and I try to have either pasta or mashed potatoes or a whole potato. That's my go-to thing, and I drink a bunch of electrolyte, which is like the Mexican Pedialyte. It's my favorite. It's what I'm hooked on. That's my go-to right after weigh-in.
All right, last question is, what's something you've always wanted to try but never have?
Skydiving. I've always wanted to go skydiving, and for one reason or another, I haven't had the opportunity to. But I really, really want to do it. But at the same time, it scares me.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list. I've always wanted to do it, but I have come to the conclusion that I'm just not going to do it. I'm too scared to do it. I've just accepted that. Do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, thank you. Thank you for the great chat. You know, it's always a pleasure with everybody that reaches out to do an interview. It's always fun for me. I appreciate you very much. And
thank you for taking the time. Really glad that I got to chat with you, and really looking forward to watching your career develop and hopefully see you challenge for a world title soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Next week, I have a really interesting conversation with a ER doctor and toxicologist, Ryan Marino. There's a lot of great stuff in that episode, so I hope you check it out.